What's going on, guys? Time for another recap here. Catching up here a little bit from the last couple of days of radiation and the treatment, but let's get into it. Man, we had a couple of interesting chop days here prior to NVIDIA. Everybody's been waiting for NVIDIA earnings, and now we finally got them. So all higher low, higher highs in the structure on the 5-day, 5-minute. Even though we got some dumps, we got some force up squeezes there on a couple of these days. So let's talk about this morning here. We had one gap we had played here on the NQ that we had mentioned, and let me get the old tweeter. We made a little joke on this one, and we said does it really deserve to be up there, right? So we announced the gap here that we had up on NQ. Notice it up here, 18,817, and does it really deserve that force up? And the market decided it definitely did. So we did have that 1 minute gap here above. So we had this huge force up right here, and then obviously came back on that open to come back and fill that upside gap there that we had mentioned on Twitter X. So coming into today, how in the world would we have played this? Well, we were downside bias most of the morning here and looking for that dip buy, and I wanted to get down to 530.10, and then if it dipped down into 530.10 in the green Fibonacci you see here, we would come down into the golden pocket, right? And that's what you want to see right here. So you can see that golden pocket range. It's actually this whole range right here. Had this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful sell finally into it, but let's talk about that a little bit. So we had a very, very aggressive divergence between Qs and SPY today. We'll get NVIDIA earnings out of here as she's pumping up her crazy stock split. That's going to be bullish, going to make the market keep going up here. But the Qs, if you take a peek at the pre-market that Qs had on that force up, so we have this just devastatingly nasty force up right here. Then if you look at the SPYs, it's just straight down. So we had complete divergence between the two markets that we usually like to watch this morning. So that was one big key factor that we said, just don't go overzealous today. Just let it happen. Just don't go over crazy. We had two different 5-minute gaps, and this is what we're go to right now since we're short bias. We go to our 5-minute charts, and we had these in the pre-market, and I wanted to see short back down to these gaps before anything. And you can see this got some really ugly consolidations, a super choppy, ugly morning, broke out to highs again, and then finally did the 3-down wash to the gap target. So this big 5-minute gap right here that we have boxed out, that was our target number one. That last final wash of the day smacked into that gap fill. And then we did have one on SPY as well. We actually had a few of them, but that 5-minute we had, TradingView shows it a little better down here, that it had prior filled wash back down. And I do want to talk actually about the 1 minutes real fast on SPY's intra as well. So we had some pretty interesting ones, and these are popping up more often than not. And the follow through here, especially to the downside, just being so erratically hard to get because the VIX is so low. So once the VIX trends really low, way down $11, $12, dip buys are just very savage. They don't go away. They're just very, very strong. So again, these indices they're starting to gap on the 1 minute more and more and more and more, leaving these minute gaps. And I love to play those. So we had one right here this morning that we had played. 1 minute gap right here, launched itself down, shied the 200, so there was no hit. So we were going to most likely come back to that 200 and hit again, but it needed to push all the people out, right? It's never generally the top when you get a scenario like this. And I wanted to see a short down to the 200 SMA 1 minute on ES, and that's what I was playing short right here. Finally washed back down. We had a little profit there, but it actually shied it. It missed it, and then it went right back up to fresh highs, then dumped, right? And that's typical of the market. So how do we get an advantage here to not get dumped on like that? Well, one thing was the gap here, and once we shied that, we knew we were going to snap back up. And a lot of the times we go past the gap. It's not like a typical daily gap fill where you hit a gap and we bounce. We actually usually slingshot past to the gap a lot of the time, intraday 1 minuting on Qs and SPY. And now for the rest of this, how would I have played this? Now we have an interesting high-low range here where I'm just going to take the opening range of the morning where I would take this low, weird algo 1 minute up to the top. And this is the range I would have tried to play and tried to kind of feel out here. We didn't get a whole lot of great indicators helping us out here. We got to go to the 5-minute chart again. And we have the high-low. Then I can show you exactly what I mean by the golden pocket on the green and the high-low scenario here. So this Fibonacci is the one that probably would have saved your butt today after that new high was put in. You're like, okay, new high, start to pull back down. We have a high range and we have a low range. Let's fib that out and see where we end up. Now, we had a seller beat right here, being sellers in control on that wash dip. And you notice it came back down to my first target always is 1618. So we boxed out the Fibonacci right here. Once we get outside of the 100 fib, we go to what? The first target, 1618. Once the 1618 is hit, bloop, to the penny. you see it retrace. And if we start to fail the golden pocket, which is what we have right here, between the 38.20 and the 61.8, 50's obviously in the middle. Once we fail that, we start heading back down to the downside, right? So let's look at this panic wash. There's a lot of profit take coming before the earnings. Nobody's seen this thing going higher through the afternoon, so a lot of people probably jumped out ahead of earnings, right? Because nobody wants to hold through that. NVIDIA near all-time highs, market at all-time highs. Not a bad idea to take profit. So to that downside, right? So let's take a peek at what our Fibonacci did, because usually when we get outside of our box, right, target one is 1618, generally comes back up to the range for resistance, which it did. Delete that. Comes down to 2618, gets a small bounce. 423.60, and that was the end of the day. So this Fibonacci high-low range right here was really, really, really clean. And prior to the NVIDIA slapping these candles back and forth here, that was the bottom of the day with the golden pocket of the green. Now, the green comes from the gap up candle right here. Ooh. So this 515 candle we've been watching for that gap up. Now I'll delete this one so it looks a little cleaner. I'll put that one back on. But this guy was a high-low range, and this is a gap candle. And this gap right here on the gap up makes it a much stronger looking candle. So we did the high-low fib. So if we cannot break above that high, that 100%, we will fall down into the golden pocket, right? And that was one of the shorts I was looking for to see if we broke back down, to see if we went back inside the 515 high-low range of Fibonacci. Let me stretch this out in the 5-day 5-minute. You can see what I'm talking about. So here's that 100. And now if earnings keeps going up for NVIDIA and we looking bullish, we're going 533.13 on SPY from the gap up candle. That is the 1618. But more importantly, once we broke back down to the 100, look at the price action today. It came down to the golden pocket, right? And the golden pocket was tested once already. Push, golden pocket tag, couldn't quite stay above that 100. Lost a little bit, lost a little bit. You can see it just treading water, trying to stay above this 100 fib for quite some time. But now you can see today we definitely had a break of the 100, right? And we got volatility because NVIDIA, and like we said, the whole week would be dead except for today after hours. And then today prior to NVIDIA, broke back down and boom, 50 fib right there to the penny. 527.66, that was the bottom. Maybe missed it by a penny, but regardless, the fib worked out perfect. And that bounced it right back up. So for the remainder of the time for the market now, we have to look at the VIX potentially coming back down and holding down. The dollar has been creeping up a little bit here, so just be cautious on that. We don't get the free ride up forever, so to speak. So we are going to delete these high-low fib ranges and go back to NVIDIA real quick. And I do want to mention NVIDIA real fast, because I did have some fibs for NVIDIA, and I said NVIDIA can go down to 932.53 before a bounce. And that's where the penny bounce was today. And that's my 61.8 fib. So I did have a 61.8 fib golden pocket hit right here. Came back down, boop, to the penny on NVIDIA, and up she went. So that after dump there on NVIDIA, you notice the NVIDIA and the market was trending identically. And that's what we told the team in our private Discord, is if you're going to be watching that market, watch NVIDIA. NVIDIA is the market. There's no such thing. The algos will be watching everything else. So if I put SPY, obviously on the chart, then you put NVIDIA. If you put these side by side, you're going to see very, very, very strong correlation between these two, because NVIDIA's hype is going to be driving the market. So literally it's identical. A little bit of an NVIDIA wash besides the market open that consolidated and held, that's fine. But you can just see this little dance right here, this little dance right here, fall down, just respected the market's algorithms perfectly. So when we have a catalyst like NVIDIA, an ER, something this big, because there is no stock market, it's just AI, because that's the hype right now. Hype, fear, and greed drive the market. And when that catalyst for the market is found, whether it be war headlines, when Donald Trump used to say China, when we get the AI bubble, like we did the .com bubble, those things tend to repeat themselves in hype, fear, and greed, right? So for the remainder of the market, let it sell back down. Let it calm itself down a little bit here on the bottom and see which way we go. But now for the prediction of where we're going to go is golden pocket associated with the 515 again. So anything above the golden pocket, this is the 515 candle high-low, right? So in between 528.24, 527 and 8 cents, that golden pocket needs to hold. We need to maintain support over the 530.10, and that would net us a 533.13. We did have some bullish news there on the split coming up in NVIDIA. So if we do the grind up And we continue here. The VIX can kind of sit low, but that was our last little earnings piece. NVIDIA's holding up for now. Let's wait for the conference call. A lot can happen. Vice versa, if this thing decides to fail and we don't get that breakout, right? So NVIDIA holds up. We're above the golden pocket. Great. But if we hold back down and go under that golden pocket, lose that zero fib, we will come back down for some of those open gaps on SPY that we've been looking for those closes. Now, I'm not really looking for that. I'm looking for that FOMO, MOMO move to kind of continue in the highs. But if you notice here, we do have multiple gaps here. We shied that 100 EMA, and that's going to be my first target on the downside move when we get it. So when we get a confirmational downside, wherever it wants to be, and this thing actually starts correct, 100 EMA will be my first target. And then we'll get a bounce to reflect 50 and most likely down to the 200s. But we have a lot of gaps down below. And yeah, so if that is going to be something you guys want to watch, tune in, subscribe, like. We got lots of links in the description to help us out. You want to trade live with us every day, jump on in. Apex, we also use them. There's codes down there to help you out. And if you do sign up for Apex, make sure to send me a private message on X, Twitter, please, so I can add you to the list of webinars coming up. Thank you, and tune in for the next.